Hello, my name is Arkady Nichols. I would like to speak with a friend of Alex Tarashansky, Colleen, and she want to talk a little bit about her history, how she met Alex, uh, and who is she to Alex, please, Colleen?
Well, I don't exactly know where to begin. It's a very interesting story. I would say about 12 years ago, I was having a usual life. I had a husband and a family, and one day I had a spiritual awakening. I was sitting in my house, and this giant 10-foot figure showed up, and I realized later it was Archangel Michael, and he came and he just put his face just right up to my face, and after that day everything started to change.
Okay, question. How do you know that it's Archangel Michael? Do you believe in God? Do you go in a church in your
Well, I
regular
was
life?
going to church. I was a Presbyterian, so I had been in the Presbyterian church for a very long time. Presbyterian church doesn't really do angels, so I had to go on the internet. I typed in angels, and then I saw a picture that it was Archangel Michael.
That's very interesting. And what did this figure did to you? What was your emotions at that time?
Well, I was just very shocked because nothing like that had ever happened to me. But after that happened, I started to have more psychic abilities. I was very shocked to have this happen to me. So I called my mother and I said, "You're not going to believe what happened to me." And she is from Germany. And she said, "Yes, I would believe it because your grandmother has this ability and your aunt has this ability." And we just never really talked about it. So they had abilities like they can dream things before they would happen, things like that. For me, my life started changing because I would sometimes get messages like in my head to go different places and meet different people. And when I would meet with these people, different things would happen.
What kind of things would happen to those people? Can you describe some
Sure.
kind of examples?
Well, let's talk about Alexander. That's probably a very good example of what happened. I had in my head to go to an expo fair because I was speaking. One of the things that happened, I'll go back a little bit, was I would get visions. So one day I was driving my car and I started to feel tingly, so I pulled over, and in the middle of the day I had this vision, and the vision was a pole with a circle around it, and I wrote the word vibration. So my guides, I call them my guides, said, "When you go to the next stop, speak to this man." So I walked over to this man and I said, because I was very nervous about it, it was all very new for me, and I said, "Excuse me, do you know what this picture means?" And he said, "Yes, I do. And I can come to your house in 2 days and tell you what it is." Well, 2 days later, he came to my house and he said, "I am with a group of people that study Native American Joseph Rael, his teachings, and he's come up with 3 cosmic dances, and one of them is called a sun-moon dance." And I said, "What is that?" And that's a dance based on Native American tradition, but he had a cosmic vision where you dance back and forth to a pole for 3 days and you do fasting from food and water. So one of the things that happened to me after my second sun moon dance was I started speaking this language that I didn't understand, and I was like, "Oh, what is this crazy stuff now?" So I eventually adapted to it because I started to understand what it was. So I called it cosmic language because I believe it comes from within ourselves, higher consciousness, or star beings. So I had a message in my head, I just kind of get them, and it said, "Go to this expo, someone is looking for you." I thought, okay. So I went to an expo and nobody was looking for me except this young man named Edward.
That's interesting.
And you know who Edward is?
No, I have no idea.
Edward is Alexander's son.
Oh, I never met him. That's why I'm asking
Okay,
you.
so Edward said, why don't you come up to Brooklyn and check out my space and maybe we'll do a meditation together, teach a meditation. And I said, that sounds like an okay idea, right? So I was like, okay, I guess I could do this. I could drive up to Brooklyn. So I drove up to Brooklyn, and I'm going to start getting emotional, maybe, I hope not. But I drove up to Brooklyn and I was talking to Edward and I wasn't getting any hits. I call them hits, like psychic hits or anything. And he opened up his closet, and there in the closet was one of these. Okay?
Okay. That's a familiar thing.
That for you it
Yeah,
is, okay? But I had never seen this before. So when he opened up the closet and I saw this, I said, who made that? Where did you get that? And he said, oh. And I said, who made that? And he said, my father. And when he said my father, I started crying. I'm going to get emotional now. I started crying hysterically with this guy I barely knew, okay? Like tears coming down my face. I started speaking star language. I fell to the ground. I was so hysterical. I mean, this is kind of telling the story. You have to understand. I hardly knew Edward, and here I am in his apartment crying hysterical. And I'm going, crying, and finally I stopped, and I said, this is my father from 10,000 or 100,000 years ago from a different planet.
Wow.
I said, he was a great teacher on my planet, and many people came to see him, and that was it. And I thought, oh, look at me. I thought, oh my goodness, this guy must think I'm crazy, this Edward. I'm telling him this story. My father is from another planet, you know, and finally I calmed down. And I don't know, the emotion was just so strong, you know. And I said to Edward, is there any way I can meet your father? Is he still alive? And Edward said, yeah, he just works down the street in Brooklyn. And I said, well, can I meet him? So he speaks Ukrainian, right? And I don't understand that. So I hear him get on the phone and he goes, something in Ukrainian. And he says to me, sure, you can meet your, you know, he's done work at 6. So I said, okay. So I'm trying to pull myself together here, right? And I'm really kind of nervous because I'm going to talk to this man and say, oh, by the way, I remember you from 100,000 years ago from another planet. You know, it's not something you really run into every day. So I come into the office, and I know nothing about Alexander, you have to understand, right? Except that maybe he does some energy healing or some herbal healing or something. So I'm like, okay, well, you know. So I walk into the office, and there's Alexander, and I immediately want to start hugging him. And it was really funny because I couldn't stop speaking star language. No matter how hard I tried, I'm like going, which is star language, one of them, not all of them. And then I translate it to English. You're my father. I remember you. Then Edward would translate it from English into Ukrainian to Alexander.
The language that you speak, and I hear the pronunciation sounds like Latin or even closer maybe to Italian. That's that's what I hear. Maybe that's what I heard before, that people from Latin, they knew something about previous civilizations and what was happening. So in your opinion, do you think it's possible that the language that you speak and you understand, maybe some other people also speak?
I have not yet found anyone who speaks the star language that I do. I have found people that speak similar. Sometimes I can hear people speaking it in their head before they speak it telepathically. And sometimes I just know. There was one time where I was at a place called Angel Valley in Sedona, and there was this giant man. He was like 205 pounds. And I just went up to him and I said, I just looked him in the eye and I went, "Tata ko ninda, shkote karete kirata." And he burst into tears. And he says, "I've been waiting to hear that all my life." So, you know, that happens. And with Alexander, of course, this is about Alexander. After I told him that he was my father from a planet, you know, 100,000 years ago, he said, "Hold on for 1 minute." I'm like, oh no, he's probably going to call like the police or something. But what he did is he went to his cabinet and he took out a book that he wrote about our life on this planet 100,000 years ago.
Wow.
I know, that's what I said. I said, wow. I couldn't hardly believe it. I was like, wow, this is really real. This is really happening.
So you think it was like one of your incarnations or something
Absolutely.
like this?
Absolutely. I think a lot of us come from different star planets, you know, and that's why more and more people are working with star beings. I mean, Native Americans, they all say that we're from the stars. If you study, you know, any Hindu texts, they're saying the same thing. And then I was visiting with Alexander tonight and having some dinner, and I had more memories. I remembered being like about this tall, and that was probably the last time I had seen him in that lifetime, because there was something going on, and I just remembered him telling me to be very brave and putting me on a ship because there was something going on with our planet.
Okay. Do you have any memories, or they like keep coming to you? What you had in your previous life on this planet? Do you remember about anything?
On this planet?
I mean, on the planet where you come from in previous incarnation.
I just remembered him being a great teacher. You know, I remembered a lot of people would come to get information from him, not just from our planet, but all over the galaxies, because of course we're galactic and it's not just one planet. I also, you know, I also remember him being a really great father. That's why I think I was crying so much, you know. I mean, I never expected to meet him in this lifetime.
So you basically connected with him like on emotional or feeling level, mostly like this, right? And
Yeah.
you felt like you knew him very close in the previous life.
Yeah, and I think that's really important because you can't make that up. You can't just see someone and, I mean, he's a total stranger, right? And just start hysterically crying. I think that's really authentic. It's not something you in your head go, this is happening. I mean, I'm talking, you know, hysterical crying. Even now, just like, it just makes me really happy to be with him. And I know he's someone very special because of, you know, I think he brings many gifts that right now a lot of people might think are unusual, but I don't think they're that unusual.
Did you have any experiences with him when he was applying his gift to you or the people you know? And did you see any healings that he does?
He didn't do any healings on me yet. He's going to do one on me after this, so I'm looking forward to that. When we're together, sometimes I get messages for him and he'll confirm them. I think we still have a lot of work to do together. I'm just not sure where it's going to take us, but I'm really open to it.
That's very interesting. What kind of feelings do you have when you're right next to him?
Well, when I'm right next, like when, you know, when he sits across from me from dinner, I can just feel his energy coming because he has a unique energy field. I think that's how he can perceive what people have that needs healing, because he's just not, he has that ability. He's just not quite like you or me, Maybe not like me. I mean, I still think that, like, there's times, you know, when I'll be walking along and there'll be somebody walking his dog and I just have to touch that person, you know. I don't even know them, but I'll have to go over and touch that person and just...
You told before that you feel that you have extra sensory abilities
I do.
as he does. Did you try to practice your abilities with other people? Did you try to heal somebody or do something with your abilities?
Well, I can telepath with some people. there's a Native American elder who's a teacher of mine, and you know, sometimes I'll get in my head, like I'll be like, I'll hear his name, I'll hear his name, I'll hear his name, and one day I said, you know what, I got stubborn. I am not calling him today. He has my number, he can call me. So I waited 3 days to call him. I picked up the phone and called him, and you know what he said? What took you so long?
Wow, that's very interesting.
It is. It is. And let's see. It just comes in different ways. You know, probably one of the, for me personally, this doesn't really have to do with Alexander, is when I started speaking the star language, I was sort of terrified. Like, what is this now? But there was a healer who had come to our town, and my people said, go speak star language to him. So I did. And he's like, are you here for like a healing? And I'm like, no. And he said, you know, why are you here? And I said, well, I'm here, I have this message for you. And I spoke the star language to him. And he totally 100% understood it. And he says, I've been working for 2 years on this procedure, and I was ready to give up. And you just told me the pieces that I needed.
Wow.
So I think we all have extraordinary gifts. I know Alexander does, from what I've heard, the testimonies of so many people in so many countries. And just the way I met him, you know, I mean, you can't make that up.
Do you think you can learn his techniques of healings, or like his practices, and can do something similar what he does?
Of course. If I was with him and he would teach me, I think I could. I think we could all do that.
We already spoke with some of the other people who had experience of his healing,
Mm-hmm.
and from what I understood, I think more people are supposed to learn his abilities and his ways to
Mm-hmm.
heal other people.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he's supposed to open, I don't know, that's my opinion, school or some kind of other way to educate more people.
Well, I
What
think
he
people.
does.
I think people have to be ready, and a lot of people say they don't think they can do that. Like you yourself, I get the feeling that you probably think, no, he can do that, but I can't. You know.
I never tried it myself.
mhm.
That's why the people like he is very unique, but I'm sure that he's not the only one in the world who can do this. And I see that you, the other person who has probably similar abilities, but
Mhm.
they're not developed yet. You don't
Right,
know all
right.
of the ways that he does. So maybe it's possible to learn. What do you think?
I think so. I think many people have many gifts. I don't know that everyone has that gift, but I do know some people, like me, I can feel some things in people. But if I worked with him, I would hopefully, being that I'm his daughter from 100,000 years ago, that maybe this is a gift we brought all together down for this time specifically. You know, it's a very big time of change for humanity right now, and I think he's just leading the way.
It's very, it's very interesting opinion. But do you remember, if you remember, what was your name at that time when you were on your planet, and what was his name? Is it possible for you to?
I don't think it
remember?
really matters.
No,
You know, I don't think
I
it
agree.
matters if his name was Bob or Joe or whatever. I just remember, God, I just remember how beautiful he was. Just like here, you know. And I remember he was a great teacher. And I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but that's really what, you know. I mean,
Okay.
because when you have someone like that who you admire and love,
Mhm.
so
Okay.
I'm really glad to be able to be speaking about him today, and I'm thanking you for inviting me to be here and be part of this this outreach.
And thank you very much. We're very glad that you described him the way you understand his personality,
Mm-hmm.
and we again appreciate all the information that you gave us.
Well, I just have one last thing.
Sure.
Hasukonira shikotakadita tumataya data shikataya. Una karate kira tokaratina tkotakeshika. Your gifts are many. Tkotuhurapata shikataya tokra. As soon as you start tapping into them, you're going to be very amazed at what you can do. Multiple gifts, on many levels.
And thank you again.
Thank you.